There are moments when the air in a room changes, and you don't notice it until you're struggling to breathe. That's what it felt like around Emily lately. Like some subtle pressure had shifted. I couldn't place it, not at first. Nothing loud or obvious. Just something off. We lived together in a third-floor apartment above a bakery, where the scent of bread and burnt sugar clung to everything. She used to say she loved it. But lately, she'd wrinkle her nose like the sweetness made her sick. She didn't say much anymore. Her silences weren't cold, they were cautious. Like she was measuring every word before she spoke it. Like she was worried she might say too much. Then there were the glances. Little ones, barely more than flickers. But I noticed. I'd be in the room with her and Mark, my best friend since college, and I'd catch something pass between them. It was nothing. At least, it looked like nothing. That made it worse. I kept telling myself I was imagining it. Mark had always been a presence in our life. He was the guy who helped us move in, who brought craft beer over on Sundays, who made Emily laugh even when I couldn't. That used to comfort me. Now it felt like watching someone pick the lock on my front door with a smile on their face. One night, Emily came home late. She said she'd been working, but her shoes were clean. No city grime. Her blouse smelled like Mark's cologne. Not exactly, but close. The kind of smell that doesn't belong to you but ends up on your person anyway. Like a fingerprint. I asked her how work was and she said, exhausting, without looking up from her phone. I lay awake that night staring at the ceiling, trying to breathe in the same room where the air had gone stale. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself I trusted her. But trust, once it gets questioned, isn't really trust anymore. The next morning, I made coffee like I always do. She came into the kitchen, eyes puffy like she hadn't slept either. I asked if she was okay. She nodded too quickly, smiled too easily. And when her phone buzzed on the counter, she flinched. It was Mark. I didn't look at the message, but I saw his name light up the screen. A second buzz followed. Then a third. She grabbed the phone and turned it over. Spam, she said. Spam doesn't text you 3 times at 7:30 in the morning. I stared at her for a long second before forcing a smile. I kissed her forehead. She winced. Everything okay? I asked. Yeah. Just tired. She left early that day. Said she needed to get into work before the rush. I stood in the doorway and watched her walk down the street. She didn't look back. Mark and I used to talk every day. Group chats, memes, old inside jokes. Lately, not so much. Conversations turned into one-word replies. My calls went unanswered more often than not. When we did talk, his voice carried a guilt he wasn't ready to admit. It hung between us like a smell only I noticed. I started watching. Not in a jealous boyfriend way, at least that's what I told myself. I wasn't rifling through her things or checking her phone. I just paid more attention. The late work nights became routine. The casual mentions of Mark in her stories, slipping him in like seasoning in a dish. She'd say, Mark said this funny thing, or Mark told me about this place. I stopped responding when she said his name. Just let it hang there. She never noticed. One evening, I suggested we go out to dinner. Just us. A date, like old times. She hesitated. That was new. What's wrong? I asked. Nothing. I just have a lot on my plate right now. Too much for an hour with me. She looked down, folding the corner of a napkin between her fingers. Maybe next week. She used to jump at date nights. Now she backed away like it was an obligation. The next day, I walked past Mark's apartment. His bike was out front, locked to the railing. Emily had taken a lift to work that morning. I looked at the bike. At the window above it. His light was on. That night, I asked Emily if she'd talked to Mark lately. She froze mid-bite, barely noticeable. Barely. Not really, she said. You sure? Why wouldn't I be? She said it defensively. Like I had accused her. Like the truth was already pressed against her throat. I changed tactics. You know what I miss? I asked. She looked up, curious, wary. When we used to talk about everything. Even the dumb stuff. Like who we thought would die first on a camping trip. She smiled. A real one. Faint, but real. You'd definitely die first. I laughed. But something in me screamed. We went to bed that night without touching. Her back to me. My eyes open. Mark texted me the next afternoon out of nowhere. "Wanna grab a drink this weekend?" It felt like bait. I said yes. If there was a line being crossed, I wanted to be close enough to see the footprints. I met Mark at that bar on 9th, the one with the overpriced whiskey and the half-dead jukebox. It used to be our spot. Now it felt like enemy territory. He was already there when I arrived. 2 drinks on the table. One for him. One for me. I hadn't even sat down yet. "Old times," he said. I sat. Watched him carefully. There was a twitch in his jaw when he smiled. Not nerves. Guilt. We talked surface-level stuff at first, work, weather, some playoff game I hadn't watched. But I kept steering it back to Emily. "How's she doing?" he asked. "You'd know better than me," I replied. He blinked, then laughed. Too hard. What? I tilted my head. Didn't smile. "You've been weird lately," I said. "Both of you." He shrugged. "You're probably just stressed. People get paranoid sometimes. Nothing's going on." But I hadn't accused him of anything. Not yet. He was the one who said it. And that's when I knew. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed next to Emily, staring at the ceiling while she breathed evenly beside me. Or maybe pretending to sleep. I couldn't tell anymore. The next morning, I waited until she left. Told her I had errands. Then I went to the living room and opened her laptop. I knew the password. Her birthday. Same as always. I didn't feel proud of it. But the truth was already whispering through cracks. I just needed it to speak louder. Her messages were synced to her email. Old conversations. Deleted texts. I scrolled until I found his name. Mark. It started months ago. A dinner they didn't tell me about. A late work night that ended at his place. Jokes. Confessions. Regrets. And then photos. Not many. Just enough to confirm everything. One of them kissing. One of her in his shirt. My stomach turned. I closed the laptop, stood in the middle of the room, and tried to breathe. I looked at the couch where she once fell asleep in my lap. The rug where she spilled wine and laughed so hard she cried. The kitchen where she danced barefoot in the mornings. Every memory turned into a lie in real time. I thought I'd scream. Punch something. Break the coffee table in half. But I didn't. I just sat. Sat with the truth pressing against my ribs like it wanted out. That evening, I waited for her to come home. I didn't speak when she walked in. Just watched her take off her shoes, drop her bag, stretch like it was any other day. Then she looked at me. Paused. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded slowly. And I said, "We need to talk." She sat across from me on the edge of the couch. Hands in her lap. Not shaking. Not folded defensively. Just still. I stood by the window. My back to her. I couldn't look at her face yet. "I know about you and Mark," I said. 3 seconds of silence. Then. "How long have you known?" I turned around. "That's your first question." She didn't cry. No denial. Just a tight nod, like she'd been waiting for this. Like she was relieved it was finally out. I walked over slowly, dragging the silence between us like a dead weight. "How long?" I asked. She looked down. "A few months." I sat down. My hands clenched so tight my knuckles popped. "How did it start?" She didn't answer right away. Just picked at a loose thread on her sleeve. We were drunk, she said. It was stupid. I thought it would be a one-time thing. But it wasn't. No. I stared at her. Tried to remember if I'd ever actually known her at all. So while I was here, making dinner, folding your laundry, planning a future, you were sneaking off to fuck my best friend. Her eyes filled, but she didn't let the tears fall. Not yet. It wasn't just sex, she said. That broke something in me. I stood up again. Paced. Sat back down. Do you love him? I don't know. Do you love me? More silence. That was my answer. She tried to explain, then said it was confusing. That she didn't mean to hurt me. That things had gotten complicated. I don't even remember the exact words, just the tone. Hollow. Careful. Like she was performing regret, not feeling it. You had every chance to stop, I said. But you didn't. You chose him. She flinched. That part seemed to sting. I asked her to leave. She didn't argue. She just packed a bag quietly while I sat in the kitchen, staring at the same spot on the floor until it blurred. Before she walked out the door, she paused. I didn't want it to end like this. It didn't have to. She nodded, wiped under her eyes, and left. When the door closed, I sat in that apartment, our apartment, feeling like the walls weren't mine anymore. I didn't cry. Not that night. The grief came later, slowly, like a slow dripping leak from a broken pipe. But the anger. That came fast. And it stayed. Mark texted me that night. No apology. Just. You okay? That was it. That was his grand opening act. I didn't reply. 2 hours later. Can we talk? I turned off my phone. 3 days passed. Then he showed up outside my office building like we were still friends. Like this was something we could settle over a coffee and a pat on the back. I walked outside. Stopped 2 feet from him. He had his hands in his jacket pockets, shoulders hunched like it was just a bad weather day. You disappeared, he said. I stared at him. You fucked my girlfriend. He blinked. Didn't flinch. I didn't mean to. I cut him off. You didn't trip and fall into her, Mark. He looked around, like the truth might be too loud for the street. It wasn't like that, he said. I tilted my head. Then what was it like? He hesitated. We didn't plan it. It just happened. You know how things get when people are. Stop. His mouth stayed open for a second longer, like he thought maybe he could keep talking his way out of it. Then he said the part that burned more than anything else. I didn't think it would matter this much to you. I laughed. Actually laughed. A dry, broken sound that scraped the inside of my chest. You didn't think it would matter? I repeated. I mean, you guys were fighting all the time. I thought maybe you were checking out. Emotionally, I mean. You rationalized your betrayal with my relationship's imperfections. He shrugged. I didn't chase her, man. She came to me. There it was. The coward's confession. Not owning it, deflecting it. Turning her into the aggressor, himself into the accidental victim. You're not a victim, Mark, I said. You're just weak. He looked away. She said she loved me, he mumbled. And you believed her. After lying to both of us for months. I didn't want this to happen. But you let it. He didn't reply. Just stood there, waiting for forgiveness like it was something I owed him. I turned and walked away. Didn't look back. That night, Emily sent a text. I still love you. Then another. Can we talk? It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I turned my phone off again. I was tired of their rewrites of the story. Tired of hearing excuses shaped like apologies. Tired of watching 2 people who shattered me pretend they didn't know what they were doing with the hammer. They broke something they can't fix. And I finally stopped trying to pretend they didn't. After she left, the silence grew legs. It walked with me from room to room, sat beside me at meals I didn't finish, climbed into bed with me every night and wrapped itself around my chest until sleep became impossible. I kept thinking the worst part would be the betrayal. The moment I found out. The confrontation. But that wasn't it. The worst part was everything that came after. The days where nothing made sense. The ordinary tasks that now felt hostile. Brushing my teeth. Making coffee. Her mug still sitting in the cupboard like it hadn't betrayed me too. I'd go to work and stare at my screen for hours, not seeing a damn thing. People would talk to me and I'd nod, pretend I was listening. But all I could hear was her voice. Her laugh. Her silence. I wanted to scream. To break something. But instead, I froze. Emotionally constipated. Like grief was stuck behind a wall I couldn't break through. I called in sick for 3 days straight. Just lay there in bed, watching the ceiling fan spin like it had answers. I hated Mark. And I hated myself for not seeing it. I went through old photos once. Just to torture myself, I guess. There was one from a barbecue. Emily on my lap. Mark right beside us, mid-joke. Her hand resting on my shoulder, her eyes on him. It was there. It had been there for a long time. I started replaying every memory, twisting it, dissecting it, looking for proof that I wasn't crazy, that the signs had always been there and I'd just chosen not to see them. And in those moments, something broke deeper than anger. It was the part of me that still thought people were inherently good. The part that thought best friend meant something. The part that believed love could withstand anything if you were loyal enough, honest enough, kind enough. Turns out, love isn't armor. It's just skin. And people like them. They know how to cut. I stopped eating regularly. Couldn't focus. Couldn't sleep without waking up in a panic. I kept thinking she'd walk through the door and tell me it was all a test. A dream. That none of it had happened. But she didn't. All I got was silence. And the silence didn't scream. It whispered. Reminded me every day that they moved on, and I was the only one still bleeding. One night, I found myself staring at Mark's number in my phone. My thumb hovered over call. I wanted to hear him say it again. Admit it. Apologize. Say he hated himself. Say he lost something too. But I knew better. Even if he answered, he wouldn't say what I needed. He'd spin it. Defend it. Maybe even pity me. And that would be worse. So I blocked him. Blocked her too. Then I sat on the floor in the hallway and cried like I hadn't cried since I was a kid. Ugly, shaking, quiet sobs. Not because I missed her. But because I missed the version of me that believed people like them were incapable of doing this. That version was gone. And all I had left was me. Alone. It's strange, the things you miss. Not the big stuff. Not the anniversaries or the beach vacations or the candlelit dinners. You brace yourself for those. You build walls around them. What catches you off guard is the quiet stuff. The way she used to hum while brushing her teeth. The shape of her handprint on the fogged-up bathroom mirror. Her shampoo scent still clinging to a hoodie she never took with her. That's grief. Not dramatic. Just boring. Relentless. It's Tuesdays. 3 months went by. Then 4. I moved out of the apartment above the bakery. Couldn't take it anymore. The smell of fresh bread made me nauseous. Too many memories in those walls. Too many lies soaked into the hardwood floors. I gave the couch away. The one we used to fall asleep on during movie nights. Donated her books. Threw out the coffee mugs. I thought about burning them, but that felt theatrical. Like I was giving the story too much power. She texted once. Just once. Said she'd ended things with Mark. That it wasn't what she thought it would be. That she missed me. That she really missed me this time. I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't reply. What do you say to someone who burned your house down and then complained about the smoke? Mark never reached out again. Maybe he finally understood what kind of line he crossed. Or maybe he just didn't care. I think that's the part that hurts the most, not the betrayal, but the indifference. The fact that neither of them even tried to make it right. They didn't fight for me. Not when it counted. I started therapy. For real this time. Told a stranger everything. And he didn't flinch. He just nodded and asked the kind of questions that hurt in the right places. The kind that made me realize the worst wounds weren't what they did, but what I started to believe about myself because of it. The hardest part wasn't losing them. It was losing the version of me that thought I was safe. That believed love was something solid. That trusted people who called themselves family. I ran into Emily once. Random. Grocery store on a Sunday afternoon. She looked older. Not in a bad way. Just tired. Like life had caught up with her too. Her smile was soft. Hesitant. "You look good," she said. "Yeah," I replied. "I do. And I meant it." She nodded, eyes glistening, and walked away. I didn't turn around. Didn't watch her leave. Didn't even breathe until I heard the automatic doors slide shut behind her. That night, I stood out on my new balcony. Different apartment. Different neighborhood. Same sky. And for the first time in a long, long while, the air didn't feel poisoned. It just felt mine.